All right, amazing student. Here we are. We're going to go over the Chapter 7 review, and I'm going to call this the answer key. Remember, we're going to be going over Standard 7A, which asks you to identify congruent triangles and its parts. So when we say parts, we're talking about angles and sides. And 7B, we're going to be going over congruence proofs. And then, of course, the last thing that's on your test is 6B. Remember, there is an answer key on the back, so you can try these on your own and check your work here. But for this purpose, I'm going to try and make a video that hopefully provides some help that will help you improve your scores on these standards. Okay, so for number 1, it says, well, first of all, it says to use correct notation. So we have to remember for angles, usually we use 3 letters. And there's no bar on top of that, it's just an angle. And for sides, so that's for angles. For sides, we have to use 2 letters and put a bar on top of it. So for this one, for number 1, we are going to identify which congruence shortcut applies. So there's only 5 to choose from. You can see there's a multiple choice question which actually shows us which are 5 options. And we have to identify which one's which. So we do that by labeling the triangle with S and A. Now we know that we label the sides that have tick marks with the letter S, and corners of our triangles, the angles, with the letter A. So over here I would write the letter S, and I'd do the same thing on both triangles. So notice that it spells SAS in the shortest path possible. So the correct answer would be SAS. You can see it's one of our options right there. So that is our answer. Now next question is, let's use a little bit of highlighting here. Which side corresponds to YX? Let's find YX. We notice YX, side YX, is the side that doesn't have any tick marks. So the side that doesn't have any tick marks is right there. So since it says YX, the correct order from here to there would be BA. So BA is the answer. Okay. So YX, BA. Notice the tick marks. It goes from 2 tick marks to 1 tick mark in that direction. So 2 tick marks to 1 tick mark in this direction would be BA. Okay, number 2. So number 2, we need to remember, if you ever have shared sides, always mark it. So I usually like to mark shared sides with 2 tick marks. I'm going to write this here, shared side. Shared side. Or the reflexive property, right? Or reflexive property. But since 2 tick marks is already taken, I'm going to go ahead and use 3 tick marks just to show that it's a different length. And it's likely a different length. Okay, so this is multiple choice asking us which congruence theorem applies. Let's go ahead and label this now. Since we have 3 sides given on both triangles, that of course spells side, side, side. So the correct answer, it would be pretty helpful on your test if you both circle it and write the answer that it was. So it's letter A. A is the correct answer. Okay, I'm going to move down to number 4. So for number 4, which triangle congruence theorem applies in this situation? Let's go ahead and label the angles and the sides. So we have an angle here. That right angle is still an angle. This is a side with 2 tick marks and another side with 2 tick marks. Now notice the order that I read it in was ASS. That's the donkey triangle. Okay. But let's do the same thing on the other triangle. We're going to label it S, S, and A. This one spells SSA. Well, SSA is ASS. They're the same thing. Okay, so just a quick note. If it is ASS or SSA, but it is a, what kind of triangle is this? The specific angle? Exactly, it's if it is a right triangle, we're going to label it as hypotenuse leg. So hypotenuse being, of course, the longest side. So the correct answer is, you don't write ASS, you're going to write HL, congruence. Okay, because it's a right triangle. Okay. All right, which angle corresponds to angle RPQ? Let's find angle RPQ. I'm going to use a little bit of color coding again. Angle RPQ is, let's use the trick of drawing it from R to P to Q. R to P to Q is this angle, the corner angle. Okay, again, R to P to Q draws this corner angle. Now, what's the middle letter? RPQ? Yeah, the middle letter is R. Or sorry, I messed that up. The middle letter is what? Yeah, the middle letter is P. So the angle that is the middle letter is the angle that we're drawing. So RPQ would be that one. Now, since the first letter is R, what matches up with R? Let's find R. Actually, I drew it over here already. R has the right angle, so if the first letter is R, then the first letter here would have to be W. Okay, the next one is letter P. Letter P is between the two tick marks, the angle that's between the two tick marks. So that's going to be letter X. And finally, letter Q, the one that's next to the one tick mark, is letter Y. The correct answer is WXY, but let's not forget to add the angle symbol. So that would be the correct answer there. Angle WXY. Okay, let's keep on moving. This next one is a very good problem here because check this out. What does it spell when you try to label the sides with S and A? Okay, this one spells SAS, but you have to remember to check both triangles. So the second triangle, let's see if it spells the same thing. Now this second triangle, if I read it in the correct order, will be the donkey triangle, the ass, the ASS, the donkey. So if they do not match, what do you say? Yeah, this one says SAS and this one says ASS. And remember, you can't read it this way, SAS, because you would skip two sides, an angle and a side, sorry. So if it doesn't match, you're going to have to say not necessarily congruent. Okay, we don't know if they're congruent. They might be. They kind of look the same in a way, but they are not necessarily congruent because it doesn't match. SAS and ASS doesn't match. All right, number 5. All right, number 5. Number 5 is a multiple choice question as well. This time we're given a triangle, set of triangles that are attached to each other. This is not the same situation as this one where it is a shared set. This one is a little bit different. It creates the shape of a letter X. So anytime it creates the shape of a letter X, we want to call that and that, those two angles, what are those called? It starts with the letter V. Memorize this, right? Those are called vertical angles. So very good if you remembered that. Vertical angles are congruent. So you can add that to the diagram. Now that we added it, I can write the letter A there and the letter A. The letter S here for that tick mark. The letter S here for that tick mark. And the letter A for that corner that's marked with a tick mark. And the letter A for that corner that's marked. Now, something I have seen people do is some people might read this as AAS or SAA, but don't read it from one triangle to the other. Don't do that. You want to only read it from one triangle at a time. So that one says ASA, and this one also says ASA. So the correct answer is C, ASA. All right, letter B. What matches up with RST? Okay, let's go ahead and color this triangle a little bit. It kind of helps. Angle R matches up with, I kind of drew over it there, but angle R matched up with angle N. So the first letter has to be N. Angle S, let's see, angle S has no tick marks, so it's going to match up with angle P. And finally, the last letter is the vertical angles, so it's going to be angle T, which matches, of course, with itself, angle T. Okay? So this right here is a very good demonstration of what the quiz would look like. You're trying to identify which congruence theorem it is, and you're going to have to identify the parts that match up. So if you got this, then this will take you to the second standard, which is, so 7a brings us to 7b. Yeah, everything from 7a prepares us for 7b. Okay? So again, 7b is about creating congruence proofs. So we're going to begin this right away. So number 1 says to draw a diagram. The diagram is missing. So if you look at number 1 and number 2, here's a proof that's completed. Here's a proof that's empty. Here's a diagram that's given to us, and here we're not given a diagram, so we have to draw one. We're going to have to create a diagram that matches this situation. So we really do have 3 options. If you want to write this at the bottom of your page, you can do that right now. The 3 options usually are that we have 2 triangles that are separate. That's one option. Our second option really is if we have something that has a shared side. So if it has a shared side, we're talking about 2 triangles that are connected to each other. And our third option is if we have 2 triangles that connect with the letter X. And that's going to be when we have the vertical angles. Okay, so vertical angles here, shared side or reflexive property here. Vertical angles here, shared side or reflexive property here. Now, of course, there's other options where triangles do touch, like, for example, it may look like this, where it forms the letter K, like that, the letter K sideways. But that's a more rare thing, and you wouldn't be able to mark these angles the same because it's not vertical. Okay, so I'm going to look at my proof here, and I'm going to see which of these situations do I have to kind of draw. Okay, so for this one right here, I'm looking at the clues. Look at all these clues that are in my proof. Given, side angle side, shared side, reflexive. Okay, this is the biggest clue for me because if it says shared side, which diagram has a shared side? Yeah, the only one that has a shared side or reflexive property is this one. So this key is guiding me to making sure that I have some type of shape that does create 2 triangles with a shared side. That's huge. That piece right there is huge. Now all we got to do is use the letters that would match the proof. So for this one, I'm given the letters B and D. So since the shared side is, let me use red here, the shared side is BD, I'm going to just go ahead and use letters B and D right there. All right, what other letters match now? Or what other letters remain? We have A and C. Okay, since A, let's just try it, see if it works over here, see if it spells the right thing. If I write down letter A over here and letter C over here, because those are the remaining 2 letters, let's see if we can label everything. So BD, shared side. You can mark them if you want to. It's a shared side. But typically it wouldn't be marked. So I guess, yeah, we wouldn't mark this since it is a shared side and it's not written, it's given. Okay. But let's see. The next thing that we're given is going to be this one right here. Let's use some color coding here. I'm going to use a little burgundy color. It says AD is congruent to CD. So let's find side AD. And let's find side CD and put 1 tick mark on it. Okay, that should be good. Now we have to find angle. Let's go ahead and mark the angle with a different color here if you want to. Angle ADB. Angle ADB is this angle right there. Angle ADB and CDB right there are congruent, and that's given. So now all we have to do right now is double check. Does this graph, this diagram that I drew, sorry, the diagram, does it match every single detail? So I'm going to go ahead and say it matched the given side. That was good. It matched the angle, the blue angle, and it matched the shared side. But the last clue we need to check is if it matched side, angle, side. So does it spell side, angle, side? Yes, it does. Let's check the second triangle as well. SAS. Since it spells SAS, or as I like to say, sauce, the correct answer is that this diagram, yeah, I know we got a little messy here, but that's okay. This diagram matches this. So there are various answers. You could draw the shape a little differently, that's true. But this diagram that I drew right here would match this situation. So remember, there's various situations. You might have triangles that are sharing a side, vertical angles, or separate. But we were given that it had a shared side, so we connected the triangles together. You have to prepare for all of those situations. Okay, here we are, going at our first proof, number 2. Number 2 says to create a flowchart proof that matches the diagram here. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to mark, that middle thing. What's that middle thing called again? Starts with a V. Yeah, if you got it nicely done, these are called vertical angles. So I'm going to need to put this in my proof. Because it wasn't there, I added it. Okay, to make things simple, I'm going to use only one letter for angle R. Actually, let me figure something out first. Is it side angle side? Is it angle side angle? Which one is it? So if I label this A for angle, S for side, and A for angle, I'm going to notice it's going to spell ASA. Let's check it over here as well. Yeah, this one right here is going to be an ASA proof. So the way I'm going to organize my diagram is I'm going to first start by writing ASA at the bottom of my proof, right down here. And I'm going to try to my best to put it in this order of angle, then side, then angle. It's not required to put it in this order, but it's best to put it in this order so it just makes sense for the proof. Okay. Makes the best sense. Okay, I'm gonna have to name these triangles. So since this middle letter is a T, kind of covered it a little bit there, but since the middle letter is a T, do you want to call this triangle RST, TRS, TSR? You can call it anything you want. For purposes here, we're just gonna put it in alphabetical order. So I'm gonna mark it as RST. Now, if it's RST, what's the second triangle going to be? Take a guess at that. All right, so if I said RST, R has 1 tick mark, N has 1 tick mark, S has no tick marks, P has no tick marks, and then T is the vertical angle. T matches up with T. So this is a great order to put it in. Now note, I did forget the triangle symbol, so try to not forget any symbols. So if I had an eraser, I'd love to erase that at that time. But this is our goal, to prove that the two triangles are congruent. So I'm going to write the triangle congruence statement at the bottom of my proof, and the triangle congruence reason, or shortcut, which is ASA, at the bottom of my proof. Now remember, every single bubble here has to have a reason, so I'm going to start with using this angle. So the letter A stands for, let's just do the first angle. Angle R is congruent to what? Yeah, angle N. Okay, angle R and angle N. Let's see if I can color code this bit. Angle R and angle N is right there, and that reason was given. It was given to us on the diagram. Remember, given is one of the most common things you use for these proofs, so you have to prepare for that. The word given is very common. Okay, next up is the side. Side use how many sides use how many letters? They use 2 letters. So I'm going to write down that this side is RT or TR. You can say whichever one you want, but since, let's just say RT, what would RT match up with? Yeah, RT would match up with NT. And that was also given on the diagram as 1 tick mark. I can go ahead and put a little mark there to show that it came from the 1 tick mark. Okay. Now lastly is the angle. So the angle, you remember, this is one of the most important things, is you can't always label angles with 1 letter. This situation in the middle has angle T here, angle T here, angle T there. There's all these angle T's, but we cannot use 1 letter here. We need to use 3 letters. So I'm going to include the letter T in the middle and call this angle RTS. RTS, angle RTS, right there, angle T, is congruent to angle NTP. Now I'm going to put this in red because I do want some color coding going on here. You don't have to do colors, it just helps with the organization. But since it says in red that I added that because of vertical angles, the reason was not given to us. The reason was that vertical angles are congruent. Now, most teachers agree you can just write vertical angles in this area. So, but the key thing is we added this to the diagram, meaning it was not given to us by a tick mark. So remember, every statement must have a reason. This flowchart proof is complete. Just remember, every statement has to have a reason, and the reason why these angles in red were the same is because we knew they created the letter X. That there, you have to memorize, is called vertical angle. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here. We're going to do 6B in a part 2. So for right now, if you did 7A, 7B with me, congratulations. I hope that the video helped. Part 2 will cover standard 6B, elimination. So try these out on your own before. That's my recommendation. Try these out on your own. Check your answers on the back before you watch the video.